Good evening and welcome everybody. Thanks for taking the time out of your night to join us for our public hearing tonight. This is a public hearing for an EGLE application received to dredge an inline pond connecting to Walloon Lake in Bay Township, Charlevoix County. My name is Ryan Blazik. I'm with EGLE's Environmental Support Division. I'm just going to be your moderator tonight. And we also have Caitlin DeVries, who's also with Environmental Support Division in the background, so you may see some information in the chat from her. And just have a few things to go through before we get started here with the hearing. This is our agenda. So what we're going to be doing here is starting off with an introduction. That's what we're doing right now. And then the big thing to keep in mind is that there's going to be two parts to the hearing tonight. We're starting off with an informational session where the applicant's representative has an opportunity to provide some information on the project. We'll follow that up with a question and answer session that'll take us no later than 6:30. And then at that point, we're going to move on to the next part of the hearing, and that's where you'll be able to make a statement for the record on this application and project. And we'll explain how we're going to do that a little bit later. And we're also going to cover the other ways that you can make an official comment tonight, or if you don't want to make a comment tonight, there are some other ways to make an official comment. And we're also going to cover who to contact in case you have further questions or your question doesn't get answered tonight. All right, in case you haven't joined us for one of these virtual public hearings before, all lines are going to be muted during the hearing. So you can hear us, but we can't hear you. However, we will unmute you again so you can ask a question a little bit later on and to make your statement if you should choose to make a statement tonight. However, you can submit questions at any time. Use the Q&A box in your Zoom toolbar, and we'll get to as many of those questions as we can as possible during that Q&A session that I mentioned earlier. And also, we're recording this hearing. This hearing is going to be posted on EGLE's YouTube channel in a couple days, so you'll be able to watch it again, or could forward the information on if you should choose to do so. All right, without further ado, I'd like to have our panelists for tonight, our other EGLE staff, to turn their cameras on and introduce themselves.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Joseph Haas, EGLE Water Resource District Supervisor in the Gaylord District Office. I've been involved in civil service regulatory work for over 25 years. Public comments are essential, and they're essential in fair and transparent public participation. So important and that you're here. We thank you in attending. You know best your neighborhood, your community, the local conditions, and we're here to determine how our regulatory processes and actions may affect them. The public input process lets you have your voice heard, specifically on behalf of the environment. This public meeting allows EGLE to gather input from the community and the affected parties before we make any final decisions on this permit application. Recognize, please, that EGLE can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that we must use in our decision making. Although this is election night, it's not a vote, right? This is not a democratic process where it's a vote for or against a proposal. Although we are bound by state and federal laws, your comments can influence how solutions are achieved with this project. So thanks again for taking the time to be here this evening. Carrie?
Hi, I'm Carrie Kent. I am the district representative from the Gaylord District Office and tonight's hearings officer. I am currently covering Emmett, Charlevoix, and Antrim counties for inland lakes and streams, Great Lakes, critical dunes, wetlands, high-risk erosion areas. So I do a little bit of all of our regulating within the Water Resources Division. And I'm happy to see everyone here tonight and their concern and possibly support for the project. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you.
Yeah, thank you both for that introduction and for setting the stage for our hearing tonight. At this point, we're going to move right into the informational session. So we're going to try to find Scott Schlitt in the audience, and we are going to unmute Scott. And Scott is with Schlitt Excavating. And it looks
I'm
like
here.
you're here. Oh, great. I have your slides here, Scott. There's a few slides, so you can just let me know when to change slides.
Yeah, go ahead. Is that the so that's the pond there? So essentially I'll just kind of briefly go over what we're hired to do by the homeowner. We're basically just going to dig the existing pond out here that is hooked to the lake with a inline stream, but we're not doing any digging on the actual stream itself. I guess maybe just I think 8 feet by the bridge. The rest of the excavation is going to be inside the pond, an inline pond. You can go ahead and hit the next screen. That just kind of shows the location of the pond itself. So that's the dig area. It's at the widest point, 90 feet wide, 145 feet long, and it's going to have a slope banks. So the average depth of the whole area might be less than 5 feet, but the deepest part's removing 5 feet. So approximately 2,400 yards are coming out, 2,400 yards. We're going to use a 60-foot long reach excavator just sitting on the shoreline. And the yellow part of the picture there is where the spoils will be placed temporarily to dry out. And the blue part is the dig area. Then if you see the little red shaded outlined area, that's where there might be some emergent wetlands. And that's why that's cut out differently than the rest of it. The rest of it will just be digging underwater. Is there another slide after this one? Yep. So just briefly going over what I just said, the 20 by 20 by 5 inlet area, right? Yeah, that. I guess I didn't know if that was an inlet or outlet, but that's where the creek comes in. That's a little area we got to dig out, and there's a bridge right there also. And essentially, is now a time to go over why the homeowner wants to get it dug out. You can go ahead and hit the next slide if there is one. So again, it's just showing the size of the pond, the amount of yardage coming out. The surface area of the dredged part of the pond portion is 13,000 square feet, so roughly 1/3 of an acre is coming out. And basically all the homeowner wants to do, this pond was dug. We're not exactly sure the exact date, but it's roughly 35 to 40 years old. And when there's a creek kind of feeding into the pond, it constantly dumps sediment into the creek or into the pond from the creek. And they're just wanting to restore the pond so they can use it, for swimming, fishing, get all the built up sediment and muck out of the pond. And they're going to leave all the dirt upland so it won't impact any more wetland areas. It's just going to be temporarily placed on most of it's a driveway around the pond. Then once it's dried out, the homeowner may place it somewhere else, possibly on the property or something, but it'll definitely be an upland area. Is there any more slides, Ray? So that's all I really got to say for the job itself.
Okay, thanks for providing that info, Scott. We're going to move right into the question and answer session. So if you have a question, now's the time. We're going to answer as many of these as we can for our panelists. You can ask your question using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So just type your question in and send it to us. If you'd like to ask your question out loud verbally, you can raise your hand icon in Zoom at the bottom of your screen. That's another option. I don't believe we have anybody calling in today, but you can select #2 or 9 to call in, or I'm sorry, *2 or 9 to call in and raise your hand in Zoom if you're on the phone. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Let me see if I have any in the Q&A box first. And I should also mention that if you have a comment for tonight, hold on to that until the public hearing part, which is after this informational session. So this is just going to be for Q&A right now, just so we're on the same page. So the question that I have typed in is, what drives the 15-foot depth?
Overall, yeah.
Can I speak on that?
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
It's basically for fishing. Even the MSU extension says that the ponds in Michigan to be able to support fish habitat, the depth has to be 12 to 15 foot deep. Mostly for the winter fish kill. You know, in the wintertime when the pond freezes, that's where the depth is needed for the homeowner wants to put some fish in there, or even have the natural fish in there survive through the winter. Right now, it's so shallow that there's really no fish in the pond. So the depth of the pond is mostly for fish, but also just to maintain the depth of the pond. The deeper you can make the pond today, the longer it'll last before this has to be done again. We don't know of any time this pond has ever been dug out in the last 35 years. So it could have been 35 foot deep at one time. And we're just trying to restore it back to a depth where fish can be have a good quality of life in there, and the depth will last a while.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Can you please confirm if a wetland delineation has been conducted or if this is planned?
We have not done a wetland delineation. I'm not sure on the rest of the property, but around the pond itself, me and some of my staff have taken wetland classes, and EGLE staff members have been out to site. So where we're putting the dirt now is definitely upland. It's actually a road. So there wasn't really a necessity for a wetland delineation done where we're putting the dirt, because it's obvious an upland area of a road. But I'm not sure on the rest of the property if one has been done. We have not conducted one.
All right, thank you. How will we protect Walloon from the stirred up sediment from the work, and will it release, or sediment their work will release?
Yeah, so we have a turbidity curtain going in during the entire dredging process, and then we will visually watch the water for turbid waters. Basically, the color will change if it's got turbid waters in it, if there's sediment suspended in the water, and we will not remove the turbidity curtain out of the pond until the water clears back up. And then once the material is out of the pond and on the shore, we're then going to put silt fence around the entire spoil area to prevent it from washing back into the wetlands or the pond or the creek.
All right, thanks. And then one follow-up question related to sediment. Has the sediment in the pond been tested for any contaminants?
Not to my knowledge. It has not.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go to raised hand. We have a raised hand. John Markowitz. We are going to unmute you, and then you can unmute yourself and you can ask your question. You there, John?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I just had a question about whether or not I do all the water testing on Walloon Lake. I have for the last 15 years. My question is about the depth of the pond that is being proposed. And I know that area of the lake really well. It is mostly wetlands. And so my question would be whether or not there's been any kind of study regarding how the depth of that pond that is being proposed is going to affect the water flow back and forth. I know that you're not going to put in, an opening to the lake, but it's all wetlands, so it all opens into the lake, eventually. So you've got I don't know, are you doing a hydrological study to just see how that water sediment is going to go back and forth? That's my question.
All right, thanks for the question, John.
I don't think that it affects the water flowing. The pond is, I'm not sure the current depth of it, but it's around 5 foot deep or something, 8 foot. I'm not sure. So you're just going to add 5 foot of depth, is it right, to the?
We're making it 15.
Oh, so it's 5 foot deep now. We're gonna add 10 foot of depth to it. I would have to imagine that as soon as we're done digging, the flow of the creek continues right on the same way it was before. To my knowledge, digging the pond 10 foot deeper does not affect the flow of the creek that runs through it. And it may be hooked into some wetland somewhere, but the area where we're digging at is not hooked to the wetland. It's all upland around the entire pond, except for where the creek comes in, the inlet, and then the outlet. So I wouldn't think there would be a study needed because it's not going to affect the flow at all. Only temporary. I mean, I guess while we're digging, it will affect the flow, but once we're done digging, and it's just I believe it's going to be a 1 or 2 day project, so it's not a lengthy project.
All right, thanks. And then I think I've got some here that might be for EGLE. Can EGLE confirm the stream flows into the lake or from the lake? And then was there a permit for the original pond? It's two separate questions. I don't know if Joe or Carrie.
The stream does flow from the wetlands into Walloon Lake. We have a reference to a potential permit tracked by the previous owner and the previous owner's name and a reference to a pond, but we do not have a copy of the permit or the original plans.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Another question for EGLE. Has Schlitt Pond Company ever been cited by EGLE for violations in other projects?
It's hilarious.
Yes, Schlitt Ponds has had a past record of doing work outside of regulations, and that has recently been resolved.
All right, thank you. And then another question is the timeline. What is the anticipated timeline of the project if approved? I'm not sure if this is specifically related to the permitting or to the actual project itself. Maybe you could talk about both. I don't know.
If approved, our permits are good for a period of 5 years. I am not sure what the potential timing of the project is.
Okay, thanks.
The construction side of it should just be a maybe a 2-day, 3-day project. The spoils will then have to dry out for a period. All soil is different, but maybe a month or so. So the actual excavation of the pond should only take 2 or 3 days, and then the moving of the spoils once they're dry, I'm not sure how long that will take the homeowner to like establish grass and everything.
Okay, thanks. And then this next one is related to if the material being placed on land, how will it be contained to prevent runoff if the material is placed on land?
So initially it'll be the silt fence around the soil piles around the pond. We're gonna, in the drawing, you can see the areas where the material will be temporarily stockpiled. Once it's dry, the homeowner's then gonna place it possibly other places. That'd be a question for the, we're not gonna move the dirt ourselves. So we just get it out of the pond, place it upland, contain it with silt fence. Then the homeowner takes over and is going to move around on the property. He's well aware that he can't put it in any wetland areas. So I believe he has some upland established areas for the dirt. And I'm sure once he moves it, I would imagine that the soil erosion permit is going to make him, establish turf grass on it. And I'm sure that's eventually what will hold it in place is some grass, vegetation.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Scott. And just so you're all aware, I'm trying to get as many of your questions and to as many of you as I can. There's currently 23 in the queue. So we're trying to get to many of these. How will EGLE monitor the project?
Typically, EGLE is pretty hands-off regarding the project. We request photos of the project after it is completed, but then of course if the contractor or homeowner has questions during the course of the project, we're more than happy to answer those or respond to any issues that come up.
All right, thank you. Is this for an individual homeowner or will this be a multi-owner development?
I am not sure what the homeowner's plan is with the remaining of the property. Where the pond is, there's not much going on. It's wetlands outside of our dig area. But I can't say what the homeowner's going to do with the rest of the property.
Okay, thanks, Scott. And this is a question related for the owner, so I'm not sure if we can. How often does the owner want to dredge the pond in the future?
I know as a contractor, we inline pond is a little bit more needs dredge a little bit more frequently than a regular pond because of the creek running through it and pulling the sediment in, dropping in the pond. But I don't think the pond has ever been dredged in the 20 years, and a typical pond takes about 20 years to dredge. So anywhere between 15, 20 years probably is when I would recommend it might need it again.
All right, thanks. Does the homeowner plan to use motorized boats on the pond?
Doubtful, but I have no idea.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see here. So if fishing is the primary driver for the pond depth, will the pond be publicly accessible?
I don't think so, no. With it being private property around the pond itself, I don't think it'd be a public area to fish.
Okay, thank you. And a couple questions for EGLE. If there's no oversight by EGLE, how will the environment be protected? And I might add to that, maybe this is referring to, I guess, how will the requirements of what they're allowed be monitored? Is maybe what they're getting at. I don't know, thoughts?
Yeah, I might like to jump in here. I mean, we have the capacity, and part of our permitting process and the permit itself allows us to do any kind of monitoring, checking, spot check. We're in the area, swing by, see how things are going. But this is again, a 5-year permit. So it could, if they're implementing it right away, we know they're out there. We might stop by and take a look. We don't have any sort of defined schedule for compliance checks, but I suspect we would certainly hear from the neighbors if there were any concerns. That would drive us to do some extra oversight. And the presumption with that question is that the project is permitted. So we got to get there first, but there is on a project of this nature, we certainly would be interested probably in doing some extra checks. We know the value of Walloon Lake, and we would certainly be available to do that, and likely doing that.
Okay.
I could add a little bit of information on our end. Is when our crew shows up in the morning, they will all have a copy of the permit. They'll read it front to back. They're going to look at the drawing, which is a real critical part of the permit. They will then, there's typically only like 2 guys on the crew for a job this size. They're going to then go through and flag out the wet area, the wetland area, if it's not already flagged out. They will then flag out the soil area with different colored flags. They're then going to document the entire project before they start digging with video footage and still photos. They're then going to draw the existing permit documents themselves to mimic it, to make sure they understand it. They will then send that drawing to our office, and our girl in the office who pulls all our permits will then give them the okay to start making sure that they understand the entire process of the permit. And then once she says they can start, they will then commence the dredging process. And part of that will be the soil erosion, especially the turbidity curtain will be installed. And then when they're done with the project, they'll also do an entirely another video footage and still photo footage of the soil placement and all the silt fence if it's in already. Sometimes the homeowner does that. So on our end, we do quite a bit of our own compliance and make sure that everything's done to the permit.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Scott. And Joe, so it's kind of a follow-up question or related to that last one about permit compliance. If an issue arises, what will remediation look like? How will EGLE respond?
Yeah, so that's sort of the answer is it depends, right? It's going to depend on what the issue is. Turbidity is often a battle in sites like this. If a project's got a lot of raw soil and we get a big rain event, that can certainly cause turbidity, and we would typically require some additional controls beyond just silt fencing in that case. Any And I think Scott said this earlier, Slip Pond stated this earlier, any visual sediment, any change in the water, when you can see sediment in the water, is a violation of water quality, and that's not going to be part of this permit. That's not allowed, right? That's a violation of water quality standards. So it can be tough to manage that, but you know, the best solution to that is, if the project were to be permitted, is to implement it promptly, get raw soils stabilized quickly with vegetation, along with silt fence until the vegetation establishes. So that's also a part of what would be required under the Part 91 permit with the county. So there would need to be a soil erosion control plan. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. We have a raised hand here. I'd like to go to raised hands. Cynthia Targos. Cynthia, we are going to unmute you, and then you can unmute yourself using the microphone icon, and then you should be able to ask your question. Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I have a question. If the pond gets approved and it's completed, will that change with that new pond what can and can't be built on that property? I mean, you talk about for fishing, but I want to know, will it be protected as the wetlands from multi homes, RVs, other things being built on the property?
Thanks for your question.
Those are zoning questions, really. Local zoning would be controlling that. We don't control development. Honestly, we would prefer, in a large parcel like this, with potential for additional phases of construction that look like they might be considered here, that we get a global conceptual project proposed, so we know what all is being proposed, instead of, we really look out and guard against we call it piecemealing, right? Apply for the small permit here, and then a few years later you apply for another small permit that may be impacting other regulated features in another area. All of that would be considered cumulatively, regardless whether it's reviewed at the onset or reviewed ongoing. But the best plan for the property owner is to present a holistic project. This is the project I have in mind, both for the state and for the local municipal, local units of government to consider and to work towards, cooperating with and planning for. So I think that answers your question, but I kind of feel like I blathered on a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I think that's the heart of it. That I think you were able to. The next question is the question about the wetlands around the pond. And does EGLE agree there is wetlands all around the pond? And it sounds like the contractor is saying there is not wetlands adjacent to the pond.
Based on our on-site inspection, wetlands do surround the pond. It appears that when we look at LiDAR elevation data, that the spoils from the original pond is the upland around the existing pond. So it's likely that the entire area was once wetlands prior.
Okay, thanks, Carrie. Has there been an endangered species review for this project? And if not, is it planned?
We did do a endangered species review, and we did not find any species that would be impacted by these activities.
All right. Thanks, Carrie. And this, we're at about time, so this is going to have to be our last question. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question. We still have 32 questions in the queue, and we need to move on to make sure everybody has an opportunity to make a statement tonight. So this last question is, EGLE, what environmental checks have been completed on the site in the last 2 years? And I'm not sure if that means inspections or site visits or what. Environmental checks that have been completed.
I'm not entirely sure what the question references, but this property did have a prior application that was withdrawn. We have had a resolved violation incident on the property as well. As mentioned, that has been restorations successfully been completed. But that is the recent history of this parcel.
All right, many thanks, Carrie and Joe and Scott, for being on this Q&A panel, and for all of you for asking such great questions. If we didn't get to your question tonight, apologize, we don't have time, but we will be providing Carrie's contact information, so you could contact Carrie with your question if we weren't able to get to it, or if you have follow-up questions. All right, but before we get into the hearing part, which is where everybody will have an opportunity to make a statement tonight on the record related to this project and application, I just want to make sure everybody is aware that there are other ways to submit an official comment in case you didn't want to make a comment tonight. And we'll put these in the chat as well. You can submit a comment through EGLE's My Enviro portal, through submission or under submission HQC-7ADR-0WDEA, and we're going to put that link in the chat, or by email to Carrie Kent, at Kent, K-E-N-T, K4 at michigan.gov. So that's Kent K4 at michigan.gov, or by mail to the Gaylord District Office, Water Resources Division, EGLE, P.O. Box 30458, in Lansing, Michigan 48909-7958, and the public comment period will be open until December 14th, so 10 days after this hearing is over. All right, so we're going to go ahead and kick off this hearing part tonight. So Carrie, would you like to read the opening statement for us to get things going?
I certainly can. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carrie Kent. I am the district representative in the Water Resources Division of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, or EGLE. I will be serving as the hearing officer for this public hearing on EGLE submission number HQC-7ADR-0WDEA. With me tonight is Joseph Haas, Gaylord District Water Supervisor, and Ryan Blazek, Water Resources Liaison from the Environmental Support Division. For our agenda, to describe how this is going to work tonight, I will begin with some background information about why we are here tonight. I will then describe the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I will outline the procedures under which we will take your comments and then describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. It will then be time for you to provide comments, and we will spend the majority of time tonight listening to those comments. At the end of the hearing, I will read the closing statement. By way of background information, the Water Resources Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical sand dune area, wetland, or floodplain. The law governing these responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994, PA 451, as amended, also known as Act 451. We are here tonight because Rob Baidas has proposed to dredge a 0.31 acre area within his wetland pond, which has an inline connection to Walloon Lake. Approximately 2,490 cubic yards of material is proposed to be removed from the pond to a maximum depth of 15 feet within the pond and a maximum depth of 10 feet at the head of the pond outlet. Mr. Baidas has withdrawn the proposal to dredge the connecting outlet between the pond and Walloon Lake. So the purpose of the public hearing: in order for a permit to be granted, EGLE must find that the proposed activities as described in the public notice meet certain criteria set by Part 301, Inland Lakes and Streams, and Part 303, Wetlands Protection of Act 451 as amended, or Parts 301 and 303 respectively. In general, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on the stream and wetlands. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 301, EGLE is charged to make the following considerations as required by Section 30106 and Rule 4 of Part 301. First, the department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely affect the public trust or riparian rights. 2, the department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any of the waters or other natural resources of the state. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 303 of the NERIPA, EGLE is charged to make the following indications as required by Section 303.11 of Part 303. A permit for an activity listed in Section 30304 shall not be approved unless the department determines the issuance of the permit is in the public interest, that the permit is necessary to realize the benefits derived from the activity, and that the activity is otherwise lawful, including 1, a permit shall not be issued unless shown that an unacceptable disruption will not result to the aquatic resources. And 2, a permit shall not be issued unless the applicant also shows either of the following. The proposed activity is primarily dependent upon being located in the wetland, or a feasible and prudent alternative does not exist. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in the project and application an opportunity to provide information that EGLE can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that EGLE can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We will be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that EGLE is, by law, not allowed to base our decision on whether or not there is widespread support or opposition to the project. In just a moment, I will outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments, but before I do so, I need to mention that the notice of this hearing was published in the Petoskey News Review in the October 14, 2025 edition. As discussed in the beginning of the informational session, if you have a comment to provide, raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will take the following steps. First, the applicant and our consultant has already had an opportunity to describe the proposed project. Second, we will then call on those who have indicated in their registration that they would like to speak. After that, we will call on all those that raise their hand in the Zoom toolbar that they would like to make a comment if they have not already been called upon. As a reminder, if you are participating in this hearing via telephone only, please follow the directions of the moderator on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to EGLE via the MyEnviro portal, email, or by US mail. When all comments have been completed, we will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association that you may represent. At this time, each person will be given 3 minutes to make their comments due to the amount of people we have attending. We will indicate when you have a minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within the allotted time. If need be, we'll indicate that your time has ended. I do ask that we all be courteous and respectful to one another tonight. Please also recognize that EGLE staff is here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and listen to those comments. How we will use the information. This hearing is being recorded and your comments will be a part of the information EGLE will consider in making its decision on whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. The public comment period for this public hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing, ending on November 14, 2025. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day public comment period will also be considered in EGLE's decision. Following the close of the public comment period, EGLE will make a decision to either issue a permit for the project as proposed or with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You may find out what the decision is by checking the EGLE MyEnviro portal website and searching for the application number HQC-7ADR-0WDEA. Thank you for your attention. We'll begin calling the names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement.
Yeah, many thanks for reading that, Carrie. Just to reiterate a couple things that Carrie mentioned, you'll have 3 minutes to make a comment. Everyone will have an opportunity to make a comment if they should choose to do so tonight. You will see a countdown timer in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, counting down from 3 minutes so that you know how much time you have left. And then also, when you have 1 minute left, you're going to hear this noise. And so that's just a heads up so that you know how much time you have remaining making your comment. You don't have to use the entire time you have allotted, but that's up to you. If there's somebody else on the line, once it's your turn besides yourself that would like to make a comment, just let me know and we'll give them an opportunity to make a comment. It's going to be 1 comment per person, 1 opportunity to comment per person, I should say. And everyone will have that opportunity tonight. We don't have anybody calling in by phone, so we won't need to have any raised hands by phone, but we have a list of 6 names, 6 people who indicated during registration that they wanted to make a comment. And we're going to start with that 6 names, that list of 6 names. And then once we get through those 6 names, then we'll go to anyone else who would like to make a comment by raising your hand. So we're going to go ahead and start off with Tanner Yerk is the first person on my list. And then after Tanner is going to be Cindy Nelson. So Tanner, we are going to unmute you, and then you can unmute yourself and begin making your comment when you're ready. Are you there, Tanner?
Yes, I am.
All right, feel free to begin when you're ready.
All right. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Tanner Yerk, and I am offering this comment on behalf of the Walloon Lake Association and Conservancy, a nonprofit organization dedicated to protecting the water quality, natural habitats, and scenic character of the Walloon Lake watershed. The WLAC strongly opposes the proposed wetland pond dredging project at 2594 Eagle Island Road. While we acknowledge that the applicant has withdrawn their original request to dredge the entire outlet channel to Walloon Lake, the revised plans still include that excavation of that 20 by 20 foot area at the pond's transition to the channel for future sediment removal. And more significantly, the dredging of nearly 2,500 cubic yards of material from the wetland pond itself, deepening it to an unnecessary 15 feet. This is not a habitat restoration. This is a transformation of a shallow, very functioning wetland into a recreational pond, one that is hydrologically connected to Walloon Lake and part of a very sensitive ecological corridor. We object this for several reasons. The proposal will impact that 0.31 acres of wetland and yet offers no compensatory mitigation, is in clear conflict with the requirements under Part 303 of the NARIPA. EGLE reviewers have already flagged this issue, and the public deserves assurance that the law is upheld. The applicant doesn't seem to have explored any reasonable alternatives, even such as a partial dredging or even invasive species management, which could also even meet their aesthetic or recreational goals without degrading that habitat. These wetlands are not isolated. They filter runoff, provide essential wildlife habitat, and support the ecological health of Walloon Lake. Approving this project would set a concerning precedent for converting wetlands to private amenities. As a community-based conservation organization, the WLAC supports property owners who want to restore and steward natural resources, but we cannot support proposals that result in unnecessary habitat destruction and a risk to public trust resources. We urge EGLE to deny this permit as currently proposed and require the applicant to revise the project in a way that preserves wetland function and complies with the state law. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks for your comment, Tanner. All right, it doesn't look like Cindy Nelson is on the line from what I can tell from my list. So we're going to move on to Lauren McIntyre, and after Lauren is Katie Toothaker. So it looks like, Lauren, we are going to find you, and you are unmuted, Lauren. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you can begin your statement when you're ready. Oh, it looks like we have 2 Lauren McIntyres. All right, are you there, Lauren?
I'm Lauren.
All right, gotcha. Feel free to begin when you're ready.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I will undoubtedly echo Tanner's very eloquent comments, but I appreciate all that EGLE does to preserve our environment and for providing us this opportunity for input on this critical decision. Walloon Lake is a very special place, long known for its spectacular beauty and pristine water quality. That beauty and water quality have been safeguarded over the years by those who love Walloon, which is why there has been such an intense reaction to this proposed project. Judging by the intense email and social media activity, the current application has caused great consternation and dismay across the lake for these reasons. Wetlands, as we all know, are critical for flood mitigation, water filtration, and habitat protection. This project could cause an increase in lake turbidity and algae bloom. Even though a portion of the original application was withdrawn, this project still remains potentially disastrous for the watershed aquifer. If a single property owner's project should not be allowed to negatively impact an entire lake. If this project goes forth, it may set a dangerous precedent, not just for Walloon, but for all of Michigan's beautiful inland lakes. I therefore urge EGLE to take the following actions: to deny the entire project, and after denial, continue to monitor the property, given that violations and illegal activity have occurred there in the past. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. All right. Next up is Katie Toothaker, and after Katie is Jerry Burgess. So Katie.
Hey, this is Brad Toothaker, Katie's husband.
Okay.
And my concern has to do with a little bit of what Tanner represented, in that creating this greater volume of water will create hydraulic pressure, which will only perpetuate that connection to Eagle Lake and create more volume of water dispersion into Walloon.
Okay. Well, thank you for your comment, Brad. All right. Next up is Jerry Burgess. Are you there, Jerry? You should be unmuted.
I'm here. There, you
We
got
can hear
me?
you. Yep, we hear
All
you.
right. Thank you for the time today. Again, my name is Jerry Burgess. My wife Pam and I bought a beautiful piece of wetlands deep in the pocket of Lily Pad Bay almost 35 years ago. We are owners of Lot 2 of East Bay subdivision, and our parcel is immediately adjacent to the subject property. The previous owners of the subject property was the Taylor family. Under their ownership, they continued to fill and dig in the wetlands for many years. At that time, we were told the Taylor family had gotten a permit. Can someone please provide proof that there was ever a valid permit issued? The damage included in the dumping of yards and yards of fill that was brought in to build a road from Eagle Island Road down to the lake. The road was needed so Mr. Taylor could bring his heavy equipment down to the lake and remanufacture the lake frontage. The new owners, Mr. Batis, bought the property last year and immediately began filling the wetlands. The Taylor family and the Batis family must not have any idea the value of wetlands and their importance to the surrounding area. If they did, they would have never altered the configuration. Water runoff, snowmelt is filtered in a masterful way in the wetlands in order to cleanse the water before entering the lake through underground springs. This is an essential process to produce the pristine water found in Walloon Lake. The potential building site location is also critical to building a site setback that the lake should be at the same distance that's been granted to the neighboring homes on either side of the subject property. My curious question for Mr. Batis is, what are your intentions for the property? Why do you need a deeper pond, a pond that would never receive permit approval if requested today? Why do you cut and level most of all the natural mature foliage and trees on the property? For what purpose? It makes no sense. Without answers to these questions and proof that the permit was ever issued for the pond and all the dumping, then the only conclusion could be to fill in the pond and return the property to its natural state. Our family is opposed to any past or future changes to this property, which has compromised the wetlands and the water quality of the lake. Our community in total might be more understanding if the owner's true and honest intentions for the property were known. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Jerry. All right, the last person on my list who indicated during registration they want to make a comment is Leslie Pritchard. And then after Leslie, we'll go to anyone else who has not yet made a comment and would like to make one tonight. You can raise your hand in Zoom. So go ahead, Leslie. You are unmuted on our end. You can unmute your microphone and make your comment when you're ready. Are you there, Leslie?
I'm here.
All
I'm
right.
here. I apologize that I am not prepared to make careful comments at this time. I will be submitting written comments in the coming days. As a third generation, having grown up on Walloon and familiar with the lily pad bay and the property on Eagle Island, I simply want to go on record that the permit, as I've just barely reviewed it, I think does not meet requirements. Having worked for the Watershed Council, tip of the mitt, for a number of years, I certainly am well aware of the value of the wetlands. As Mr. Burgess has just stated, the intentions long-term are in great question. I'm sorry, I've had a very unstable internet here, and I've only just this moment been able to connect with you. So with all due respect to the opportunity that I'm missing here, I will submit written comments in the coming week.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Leslie. All right. So now, if you have not yet made a comment and would like to make a comment, we'll go to the raised hands. So just click your raised hand icon at the bottom of your screen. We'll call on you, unmute you, and then you can make your comment in order. So first up is John Markowitz. So John, we are going to unmute you and you can make your comment.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Can you hear me all right?
Yep, we can hear you. We can hear you, John.
Okay.
Yes.
I can't. I'm sorry.
Nope, that's fine.
Wait. Let's see. Let me try that again. Uh-oh.
Hey, there, John, we can hear you.
Well, I don't know if you could hear me or not.
Yes,
but,
we can.
Here is my comment. I have been on this lake for 66 years. I've done all the water testing on this lake for the last 15 to 20 years. I have a master's degree in environmental biochemistry, and so know kind of what's happening up there. So my comment is this. I think this project is very ill-informed. I listened to the comments earlier from the potential developer who doesn't seem to really know what the answers were to the questions. They haven't done the studies that I could really relate to. It's just like, well, we're not sure, we don't know. And so my feeling is that this is a kind of a shot in the dark. And it definitely is something that will very much negatively impact on the quality of the lake. And believe me when I tell you, I have, like I said, I have tested this lake for a number of years. My father did it before me. We've already seen the remarkable degradation of the lake quality due to multiple developments and boat traffic and things like that. This is going to be a real negative impact, especially up near Michigania and into the harbor around it and Lily Pad Bay, because it's a very shallow part of the lake. So my feeling is that this needs to be really analyzed by EGLE and to get a very significant understanding of the environmental impact that this is going to have on not only that part of the lake, but the rest of the lake. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, John. Hopefully you could hear us. We were able to get your comment. Thank you. All right, next up is Marianne Berry. So Marianne, you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you. I do not feel that the request to dredge the pond should be granted, as I still have many unanswered questions, and I believe that our community still has unanswered questions. And there's a lack of information about the specifics of dredging and the management of the property around the pond. As an example, that the contractor didn't realize that the pond was surrounded by a wetland. I don't believe a silt fence is adequate to protect the area around the pond. There is a real potential of negative impacts to the wetlands surrounding that pond, including spreading invasive species, wetland destruction, disturbing contaminated sediment, resulting in cross-contamination and the possibility of improper management of dredged materials. There's also, I do believe there's evidence that there is a true evidence that this might happen, of the danger of contamination to Walloon Lake and the stream leading from the pond towards Walloon via runoff of groundwater. There will be significant disruption of this natural habitat as a result of dredging, impacting turtles, frogs, waterfowl, and fauna, to name just a few. The dredging will degrade the existing sensitive ecosystem. I'm not sure about the dredging material being laid out to dry, but I'm also wondering about that existing pile of sand that's on the north side of the property and where that will be laid out on the property. I'm worried about how I have concerns about the monitoring of that EGLE will be doing. I feel that there needs to be a proactive monitoring instead of a reactive. I urge EGLE to consider all of the information, questions, and comments you have received from the Walloon Lake community as you make a decision on this project. I do not feel this project supports public trust, does not minimize aquatic and environmental disruption, nor offer the public any benefits. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. All right, next up, Kip Bone. All right, you are unmuted, Kip. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I wanted to make the comment that we have property on the other side from Mr. Burgess of the property in question. And we watched in horror as many, many acres of trees, foliage, and wetland were completely stripped out, leaving it wide open. And subsequently, hundreds, if not thousands of yards of dirt were brought in and covered over all the wetlands. And this is not even down where the pond is. This is further up from there. most people were not aware of it because you can't see it from anywhere except our property and a few adjacent properties around there. And we were all very concerned about that. Finally, the county was made aware of it, and hence EGLE was made aware of it. And the filling in stopped. Then I'm assuming that EGLE required that dirt to be removed, and those are the giant piles of dirt that you see on Eagle Island Road. So that's good, but what's left is just devastation there. And the reason I say all this is because all of it was done with no permitting whatsoever. And that's the biggest concern, because if that can go on, there's nothing to say that the current owner dredging the pond might just take a little liberties of his own, because it's easier to ask for forgiveness. And I disagree strongly with the idea of dredging the pond and doing the kind of development that's destroying this very sensitive ecosystem that has existed for years and years and years.
All right, thanks for your comments, Kip. All right. Next up, Gerald Zelenak. You should be unmuted on our end, Gerald. You there?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I'd like to add my strong agreement with all of the previous speakers. I think they've made some very critical points. I also am deeply concerned by the previous violations, the willingness to go ahead with projects without proper permitting, and then the stated rationale for this pond is to increase swimming and fishing opportunities. When you're like literally several feet from the lake with abundant swimming and fishing opportunities, the rationale seems suspect to me. I am deeply concerned that there's a much larger agenda that we have not yet heard about. And death by 1,000 cuts is still death. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, and John Markowitz. John, it sounds like you already made a comment, I believe. So unless there's somebody else on the line who hasn't made a comment that would like to make a comment, we won't be able to take one. But we'll go ahead and unmute you, and you can let us know if there's someone else there who wants to make a comment. Are you there, John?
Okay, just one very quick comment.
Yeah, John, we can't
regarding
take, John, we can't take any more comments. You get one bite at the apple, one chance to make a comment and use your opportunity. So if you have any additional comments, then you can provide those by those other methods to make a comment that we already provided and we'll be providing again after we get through this hearing part. But thank you. So our next raised hand is Xavier Goddard. So Xavier, you are unmuted and can make your comment.
Thanks. This is Xavier Goddard. I'm the supervisor at Bay Township. Bay Township Board of Trustees submitted a letter to EGLE in regards to this project. I would just like to read a couple of pieces of parts of this letter that we sent to EGLE. Given the goals of the master plan, which carefully took into consideration citizens' comments, the board has serious concerns that dredging a wetland pond immediately near Walloon Lake, even without dredging the outlet channel, could increase turbidity, mobilize nutrient sediments, and affect hydrology at the lake interface. We respectfully ask EGLE to deny this application. Thank you.
Yep, thanks for your comment, Xavier. All right, if there's anybody else who has not made a comment yet, feel free to raise your hand in Zoom by clicking the raise hand icon. And again, it's one comment per person to make it fair for everybody. We'll give you a couple seconds in case somebody changes their mind and wants to make a comment tonight. I'm not seeing any raised hands right now. If we don't have any other raised hands or people who want to make a comment, then what we'll do is we'll go on to those other ways to make a comment. So we'll review those again in case you ran out of time or would like to follow up and make additional comments. You'll have that opportunity. And then we'll also provide you with Carrie's contact information in case you have some questions that weren't answered and would like to follow up with Carrie on your questions. So I'm still not seeing any other raised hands. So Carrie, would you want to read the closing statement for us tonight?
Sir. Thank you for your comments and cooperation. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here tonight. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you may submit additional written comments until November 14th, 2025. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments may be submitted via the My Enviro portal, email, and US mail. The hearing is now closed. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. Yeah, as Carrie mentioned, those other ways to submit an official comment are open until November 14th. We're putting those in the chat again, the link to My Enviro, or by email to kentkk4@michigan.gov, or by mail to the Gaylor District Office, WRD EGLE, PO Box 30458, Lansing, Michigan 48909-7958. All right, and then if you have further questions, you can contact Carrie, Carrie Kent, at the Gaylor District Office, and her phone number is 989-619-2443. That's 989-619-2443, or again at that same email address that we provided before, KENTK4, that's number 4, at Michigan, MICHIGAN.gov. All right, and that about wraps us up. But do you have any closing comments for us tonight, Joe?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for taking time to be actively involved in this hearing. Public involvement is really a priority for EGLE. It helps us make better decisions. Local citizens and the folks participating here, your well thought out questions are helpful. You know best the patterns, the rhythms, the dynamics of your local landscape. We work in the areas, but we're not spending every day there, right? This process lets you have your voice heard on behalf of the environment. So we recognize, value, and appreciate your local knowledge. And just wanted to say thanks again for participating, for your comments, for your cooperation. We appreciate that you've shown an interest in this proposed application for a permit by taking the time to attend this hearing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joe and Carrie, for being our panelists, and to all of you for being part of this process. Like Joe mentioned, last thing I'll just leave you with is a reminder that this hearing was recorded. I'll be posting it on our YouTube channel in the next day or two, and so you can just go to YouTube and search for EGLE and find our YouTube page. So with that, thanks again, and I hope you all have a great rest of your evening. Good night.